So has World War III already started? It's a massive question, right? But today, we're going to look at it from the perspective of a frontline commander who says, yeah, it has. He argues it's not some future risk. It's the reality we're living in right now. All right, let's get right into it.
We're kicking things off with this, a quote from the journalist who actually did the interview. And it's important because today's explainer is all about getting inside a very specific, very unfiltered viewpoint. Now, we're not here to say he's right or wrong. The goal is to just understand the perspective of someone on the ground in their own words.
So, where is this all coming from? Well, it's not from some think tank or a cushy office. We're going deep inside a tense, underground bunker on one of the most active front lines of the entire war. Let's just paint a picture here. We're in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine, inside a Ukrainian position that was recently captured by Russian forces. The man we're hearing from is a Russian Special Forces commander. His call sign is Bacha, which kind of means father or dad. And the opposing trenches, they're just 800 meters away. I mean, this is an environment where your worldview is shaped by life and death stakes every single day.
So who is this guy? Well, to understand his perspective, you gotta understand his history. Bacha says he comes from a long line of military men, going all the way back to the Tsarist army. Both of his grandfathers died fighting in World War II. He calls himself old school, and get this, his own 19-year-old son is fighting nearby. So this isn't just a job for him, it's deeply personal.
All right, let's get to the absolute heart of this. This isn't just a commander talking about tactics or the battle in front of him. No, this is a huge, sweeping thesis about the entire state of the world.
See, for him, this isn't some far-off what-if scenario. He's not warning about something that might happen if things keep escalating. In his mind, the escalation already happened. We've already crossed that line, and most people just haven't realized it yet.
And there it is, the bombshell, stated as plainly as that, right from his bunker on the front line. He argues people are waiting for some big formal declaration of war, like in the old movies. But he says that's never going to come, because this war, it's already being fought in a totally different way.
Okay, so that's a huge claim, right? The crucial question is, how does he back it up? So for the rest of this explainer, we're going to break down the specific evidence he lays out for why he believes we're in an undeclared, multi-front world war.
This is really the key. If it doesn't look like World War II, with millions of men in trenches, then what does it look like? How is it being fought, and who's fighting it? Let's dive into his breakdown.
This is probably the most important part of his whole argument. He thinks we're all stuck on a World War II model, formal declarations, clear front lines. But he's saying, forget that. The new playbook for global war is way more subtle. It's fought in multiple domains at once, way beyond any physical battlefield.
He actually breaks it down into 5 distinct fronts. In his view, these aren't separate things. They're all part of a single, coordinated war being waged by NATO against Russia. Let's take a look at each one.
First up, the financial front. For him, the economic sanctions and asset freezes against Russia aren't just political pressure. Nope. He sees them as a direct act of war, an attack designed to literally break the country's economy.
And his Exhibit A? This massive number. $300 billion. That's the value of Russian assets that have been frozen. He says this move basically destroyed the sacred cow of capitalism, that private property is untouchable. And to him, that's proof that a financial war has been openly declared.
Next, he talks about the industrial front, and this is a two-pronged attack in his eyes. First, you use sanctions to try and stop Russia's own industrial and tech growth, and second, you crank up Europe's own war machine to full capacity.
And to make his point, he brings up the German arms company Rheinmetall. He claims its value has shot up 280 times. For him, this isn't just a business doing well, he's basically saying, follow the money. He sees this as proof that powerful financial interests are making a fortune from this war and want to keep it going.
Okay, now we get to the stuff you'd expect, right? The military and intelligence front. But even here, he says it's not what you think. He argues this isn't a war between Russia and Ukraine. In his view, it's a direct, even if undeclared, military fight with NATO.
He's adamant that without NATO, none of this would be possible for Ukraine. He describes a pattern he sees from the ground. NATO provides satellite intelligence, they fly huge surveillance drones near the border, and then, he claims, strikes on Russian territory follow right after. To him, these aren't just helping out, they're direct acts of war.
And finally, he describes 2 more fronts, both aimed at completely isolating Russia. One is logistical, trying to cut Russia off from the world physically. The other is informational, trying to cut them off ideologically.
So on the one hand, you've got the information war. He describes it as a non-stop narrative in the West that Russia is the enemy, which he thinks is designed to get everybody ready for a much bigger fight. And at the same time, you've got the logistical war, stuff like banning Russian ships from ports or denying them insurance, all designed to choke off Russia from global trade.
So if that's his worldview, a five-front global war already in progress, then what's the end game? The journalist asks him, how do you calm them down? How does this all end?
His answer is, well, it's intense, and it's packed with historical weight. He says the only way this stops is with the Russian flag over the Reichstag in Berlin, a direct callback to how World War II ended in Europe.
Now, why say something so extreme? Well, in his logic, countries like Finland or the Baltics, he calls them puppets. He says attacking them would be pointless. To really end the war, he believes you have to go for the puppet masters, the major powers in Europe, symbolized by Germany, and behind them all, the United States.
Wrapping this all up, the whole point here was to deconstruct a worldview that was literally forged in the heat of battle. It's a perspective that sees a global war being fought not just with tanks and missiles, but with stock markets, satellites, and news headlines.
And that leaves us with one final, really important question to chew on. Whether you agree with this commander's conclusions or not, his whole framework kind of forces you to reconsider things. If this new reality is all about sanctions, cyber attacks, and proxy conflicts, then what does the term world war even mean anymore? It really makes you think, doesn't it?